You are eating in a small calorie surplus, tracking everything, hitting your protein, training hard, and after months, you look exactly the same. This is the lean bulk paradox. The problem is not your consistency. The problem is the surplus is too small to trigger the biological cascade your body needs to build muscle. Here is why playing it safe keeps you small. Your body does not build muscle as a side effect of training. It builds muscle when the metabolic environment demands it. One of the strongest signals is energy availability. When you are barely above maintenance, you give your body just enough to recover, but not enough to prioritize growth. Energy surplus does more than cover the cost of new tissue. It amplifies the anabolic signal. Glucose intake activates mTOR, the master switch for protein synthesis. When energy is high, mTOR signaling is elevated. Your cells interpret abundance as a green light to grow. When energy is tight, even with adequate protein, that signal is blunted. Research confirms this. Trained individuals consuming larger energy surpluses gained more muscle compared to those at maintenance or small surpluses. The difference was not training. The difference was the metabolic environment. And here is what most people miss. Protein synthesis is energy expensive. Every gram of new muscle protein requires ATP. The assembly of peptide bonds, substrate transport, signaling cascades, all cost energy. When you underfeed, protein synthesis rates drop even when protein intake is adequate. Your body rations resources. Growth is deprioritized. Caloric restriction, even mild, chronically suppresses muscle protein synthesis. The inverse is also true. Overfeeding, even without training, stimulates anabolism. Classic research showed that adding calories to an adequate diet improved nitrogen balance. The body shifted into a more anabolic state, purely from energy. Pair that surplus with hard training and adequate protein. The effect compounds. Training stimulates the machinery. Protein provides substrate. But energy availability determines whether the system runs at full capacity or survival mode. This is especially true for trained individuals. Beginners can grow in a deficit because they have untapped potential and excess body fat. Trained lifters do not. Your rate of muscle gain is slower. You need a stronger push. A 100 to 200 calorie surplus might be above maintenance, but it leaves no margin. Any miscalculation, increased activity, or stress slips you into maintenance. The fear of fat gain drives people to chase the smallest possible surplus. That fear is understandable. But the alternative is spinning your wheels. You train hard. Nothing changes because the biological threshold for growth was never crossed. Here is the truth. Muscle and fat gain are not perfectly separable. When you eat in a true surplus, some fat will accumulate. The ratio depends on training, protein, and genetics. But trying to gain pure muscle with zero fat is a fantasy that keeps people stuck. Studies comparing moderate versus high surpluses show a clear pattern. Larger surpluses lead to more muscle growth when training volume and intensity are high. Yes, fat increases, but if your goal is muscle, a controlled aggressive surplus beats a timid one. The key is controlled. Commit to a deliberate surplus large enough to support growth. For most trained individuals, that is 300 to 500 calories above true maintenance. Not estimated. True maintenance verified by tracking. Once you commit to the surplus, commit to training that justifies it. Energy amplifies the signal, but the signal has to be there. Without progressive overload and sufficient volume, the surplus becomes excess. Lean bulking is not a failure, but microscopic surpluses born from fear are. If you have been stuck for months, the answer is not patience. The answer is a real surplus, one your body can respond to. Build muscle, accept some fat comes with it, cut later. That is how you get bigger. Subscribe for more content that explains what drives progress.